We didn't move the tags around, that's where they were put originally. Nobody can see.
I was gonna say,
Put it on your back.
Al and I can see it, we know where we are.
I think I might stand here, it's nice and rainy. Barry, I have to set up the laptop. Just forgot.
Pretty close, right here.
It's a thing on me.
We walked up and the outside door was locked, so I was calling you, it was Erica walked up.
I heard you guys knocking.
But I hung up on you before you answered.
Oh, is that what happened? So it wasn't really my fault.
Didn't take it.
Just have that.
They check
I
one.
tried locking the door, I said,
Yep,
you know,
okay.
everybody would be smart enough to fall down. I tried to keep it when they.
I did it for some other people, so Kathy, the other bag.
So was he supposed to show?
It's just recording audio, the audio in the room.
Okay, I thought you two did both.
That's in my office. We're live streaming in my office. Yeah, it's two different setups. Very confusing sometimes.
Everybody should get up and do a song.
6:01, shall we start? Okay, let's stand up.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I wish to announce that a 48-hour notice is required under the Open Public Meetings Act was emailed to the Asbury Park Press, the Co-Star, the New Coaster on December the 10th of 2020. That a copy has been placed on the bulletin board in the borough office and that a copy has been filed with the borough clerk. Mr. Bennell?
Here.
Mr. Gubatose?
Here.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Mayor Fox?
Here. Okay, let me start first with our OEM announcement on masks. Effective July 6th, we put guidance on mask policy required individuals not vaccinated to continue wearing masks and social distancing outdoors and out indoors. We ask for your conformance to this requirement. This is about protecting our fellow citizens and children from the Delta variant. Thank you. Okay, welcome to meeting 16. This is a 1-hour workshop. This workshop is a continuation of the July 13th workshop around the Lorraine Avenue Church that we purchased in early 2020. After the last workshop, we met and further developed the requirements for a study that we would undertake starting as soon as possible. We met with both T&M again, and if you remember T&M, that was Eric Nathan, he was here on the 13th, and he's been here probably at least 4 times, maybe more. He did an initial kind of a validation study up front, but so after the meeting on the 13th, we believe that a kind of a hybrid approach that provides both this phase 1, but also some renderings of the church and can provide residents with a view of what the facility could potentially look like, along with the development of that Plan B of potentially the Ascension Church Parish Center. We could really move on, but the group that, or the company that Eric brought in, Eric Nathanson, was somebody that he has worked with before. The DIG group, it's an architecture group in Middlesex County. I provided council just 2, you could actually pass those to people if they want to see it. And I apologize, I didn't make copies of it, but it was 2 renderings of 2 buildings. I told a few of the councilmen, I'm familiar with those buildings. I grew up in that area, and the firehouse on Saddam Street, they've converted into a community center museum, and the church, I think it's on Albany Street, is now a women's shelter / church. It's probably the oldest church in New Brunswick, if not the oldest, one of the oldest. So the gentleman's name was Rich Alderiso, and he actually lived in Bradley Beach for a few years and lives in Ocean Township now. His view was to really give the community a good assessment of what could be, providing assessments like that, renderings like that would be helpful. So we believe that's a good way to go relative to the study. Get the structural stuff squared away, but it could almost overlap. You'd probably start the structural stuff and the rendering stuff shortly thereafter. So we wanted to just kind of advance that concept in that, with the outcome of tonight is to try to align this go-forward plan and understand the components of the bond ordinance that supports that we'll be also talking about during the council meeting. So, Kim, I don't know if you want to talk for a few minutes on it and add a few things to it.
Okay, sure, yeah. So last workshop, when you were discussing the structural reports, I got a few different ideas from council on what he expected. So I'm meeting with T&M, with Eric Nathanson. We sat down and I said, well, I think that there's probably a way that we can do this, that we get the structural report, meaning if Kim walks into the building tomorrow, is it safe? Is the floor safe, the ceiling safe, the wall safe? Is it a safe structure? Because that's what we need to know as well, right? Then, if it is safe or isn't safe, what has to be done? And how do we get to the end goal that the council wants? And I think that might have been missing in the first proposal that was received from T&M. And I think that is important for you to know is it structurally sound? Can it be mitigated? And can it be mitigated in a fashion or rehab to what you want it to be? So that's why I had sent mayor and council an email asking for 3 uses. Now, when you say 3 uses, it's not meaning that yoga and Pilates would be a different use. You have a community use, you have a museum, let's say, you have office space, so that's the type of information I needed to know. Everyone got back to me, I emailed that information over to Eric Nathanson. He will share that with whoever the architect would be in that proposal. That way they would work together and give an idea of what the cost would be for the end result. And, you know, they'll come back with a few different options, different layouts of what it would be. That way you get a better price, and you can estimate it out. And that way you have a better working document, I think. Any questions for me?
Two quick ones. One, I know you asked us each for 3 and gave you 3, but you're also
I
worried.
have a few more though from everybody, but that's okay.
No, but I guess my question is, separately, I had forwarded that report, which probably listed out here.
Sent that to them as well.
Were you able to incorporate any of those as well?
I sent the full report and said, please, you know, do what you will with it, and I'm sure that the uses really still fell into really 3 categories though. So I think they'll be able to work with that, sure.
The other thing is, I just want to make sure I'm understanding your commentary correctly. As a follow-up from the last meeting where I specifically was raising my own personal concerns about spending money to evaluate a building, restoring it to its current use, and I was asking, could we look at restoring it to a prospective future use? Did you just say that they might be able to do that?
That's what they're gonna look at doing, correct.
That is what they're willing to do? Okay.
So structurally sound means, it's worded as current use, but to see if something's structurally sound, that just means me walking into that building today. And then that's right, then the other part of the proposal would be, you know, can it be this, and what would it look like and what would it cost?
Working with the architect.
Architect, that's right, because that's not really an engineer function, right, it's more
Right.
architectural.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, I remember the architect saying, because he had the rough drawings of the place.
Yeah.
I think what he said was, I don't see you changing it, you know,
Right.
super significantly.
Right.
This is structurally
It's not so
probably pretty
drastic.
close to where you'd end up, but he can tweak it from there. And that's kind of the sense I got from
Correct.
it, that you weren't throwing up the
Right.
apple cart and starting from
No,
scratch.
right, yeah.
And I know we're workshopping the church right now, but in the meeting to come, we will be talking about the bond ordinances. And in the bond ordinance data, is that architect's cost
It
included?
is, so it wouldn't be so it would be engineer, architect, soft cost, that's how it, you know, it really falls into place with the bond ordinance, so it would be the soft cost. There's also construction costs to mitigate, any of the items that we find need to be mitigated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When you say mitigate, are you talking about environmental?
Lead, asbestos, mold,
Didn't we go through that with Dave already?
but you don't have the funding in place to do it.
Right. But I thought Dave got pricing.
Yeah, he did.
There was a
But
bid,
that's
but
in
the bid
the-
has to be awarded within a
Right,
certain amount
but
of
it
time,
sounds
it has to
like-
be rebid.
It sounds like we're gonna go back and do that again.
You have to. You have to rebid it because it wasn't awarded within the time period.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So you have to rebid. But you have the spec, so it just goes back out. And you
Right,
probably have the
that's
same
my
people
point, so
dealing-
they're not reinventing the spec that we had, we're just putting it back out.
Right. It shouldn't be, I wouldn't expect it to be significantly different.
It shouldn't be any different.
Well,
Nothing's
depends, now
changed.
people know what the difference is, could change,
Well,
unfortunately. Yeah.
it,
But now you're doing an ordinance, if this ordinance passes, we will have the funding available to move forward with the project as well.
So-
Because that's a fear of contractors as well, they don't wanna take the time to fill out those bid spec sheets if they think they're not gonna get the job. So you have a probability of people answering the bid, and maybe more. You might even
you're
get
gonna
more,
get.
you might get better.
We're gonna get 1 or 2 and then a whole new group, that's what happens.
Mhm. Right.
So what are the costs that T&M are gonna have to,
I don't know, so I sent them the.
so we still don't have, he didn't give us a breakdown like I asked for
No, not
last
just
time?
yet, not just yet, because he needed the uses, so when he gets the use, he's gonna incorporate that, or, you know, he has to get a price from the architect is gonna be.
So we should see very little other than probably bid evaluation for the mitigation of the environment.
You're gonna also see an added cost.
Well, I
for the
meant
architect.
just for environmental portion
Oh,
of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
A couple grand for them to evaluate the bids and say, here's our report on the bids that we got based on the spec that was put together.
If that's who you want to handle the bid, then
Okay.
it would be between myself, the QPA, the attorney reviews it, and then the engineer can, suggest an award.
Sure.
Anything else?
I'm good.
No, I think if we get the bond ordinance approved tonight, then by the end of the month, we can proceed. And we're gonna have that motor, get it going. But they seem to be in a position where they said if we feel confident that you're gonna move forward, they'll get the resources in place and get ready to go. But I haven't talked to them since the last time, I don't know, Kim, if you have, but.
No,
We-
just
we
the
probably met
email.
with them
Just,
a week-
yeah, no, just,
a week or so
just,
after the last meeting.
no, I only forwarded them, the survey and report that was given to me, and the answers I got from
Yeah,
you.
I thought, what I felt like the work that, it's hard to conceptualize, but when the architect brought forward some real life, these are real life things, and I knew the building, so I said, okay, I remember this building the way it was and the way it is, it's interesting. So I think that'll be helpful for the community to see something.
It's definitely a start for you guys, the building's been sitting for over a year, so it's time to probably move. I know that you were going to discuss other items, whether it was referendum or not, but it's really hard to do, if you don't have a dollar amount.
You're
Well,
here. I second that motion.
that leads me into the next question. We were talking about doing a referendum.
Right.
I think we got a deadline at the end of the week to get the text in, don't we?
If we're gonna move forward with the referendum, we do, yeah. If not, I did check a little bit on this and said, what would a referendum cost middle of the year? April something. It's not cheap. The quote I got was, it's more than $20,000.
To the state.
What's that?
To the state.
I don't know to who, I just asked, I actually asked the bond attorney, what would it cost to do a referendum off-site, and she said, north of 20,000 for a town to do their own.
For advertising,
The county,
I'm
the
not sure.
city, or it was like.
they take their cut and then we get advertised because it's not a general election.
Well, then you gotta execute the ballot too, which shouldn't be expensive, but she just said, it surprised me. I didn't think it
Well,
would be that
that's why we
expensive.
moved it from May municipal elections, because in 2008, we went to the polls 5 times in this town. It was ridiculous, it's like, let's get rid of the school election in April, let's get rid of the May municipal election, let's move it, because it costs money. I mean, I didn't know the amount, but it's gonna cost money for sure.
Yeah, I was surprised it was that much.
Yeah, that's surprising.
So there is an option to do it outside the general election.
Yeah, if you wanna pay for it.
We wanna
yeah.
pay for it.
Yeah, just gotta pay for it.
And get people out to it.
Right, well, that's the bigger. It's easy to pay somebody money.
Yeah, I mean, and the
They do
other,
it all the time.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the other thing too is you've got an election coming up in November that's basically gubernatorial assembly. There's one ballot question for us. So it would have been, there'd be room, if you will, conceptual room on the ballot, but it's just now getting out people to vote, the awareness off-cycle. It's a challenge, just like school board elections are always minuscule turnout on a comparative basis. So it's just it's a challenge. But hopefully, we can. We'll just have to figure it out going forward.
So, unless it's sitting in my inbox, I haven't seen any language on the referendum, unless it was like sent today.
Just Randy, that's all.
Randy.
This right here.
Yeah, so, is that all we have to work on?
I don't know, Mr. Mayor, you said.
You can go online, and that's basically what I did. I went online, found one question. There's something similar in the states the same way.
Just asking, at one point I know you were hoping our attorney would be able to draft something, but
He hadn't as of Friday, and I said, well, if you're not gonna draft it, you know, we'll talk about it next week. He thought it would be better to, initially he said, well, why don't we wait and see how the conversation goes? And I said, it's just about a matter of putting a few sentences in, a yes or a no, and Eric was shot at it too. But if we're gonna push it, it's moot.
well, I mean, I for one came here open-minded, you know, brought Randy's question, didn't know what else might be shared with us, but I do have significant reservations trying to move forward within the timeframe we have, and primarily my biggest concern is that we'd ask our residents to vote on something without having a sense of the cost. And I think I was talking to Councilman Bunnell a couple days ago, and he said something along the lines of, I don't think I can vote for it without knowing what the cost is. And I thought, I'm not sure I'd vote for it without knowing what the cost is. So it's hard to ask our residents to do that and expect us to get an objective outcome.
Along those lines, I was thinking of this today, once I heard we may not actually have numbers for this thing. We're not gonna have numbers for this, so before even hearing Kim say that, for numbers for the referendum, like the actual language on the ballot.
Yeah, on the ballot we could.
Yeah, I thought that like, that's kind of amounts to, you know, voting yes amounts to giving government a blank check. And I don't think, you know, regardless of your political stripes, most people are really reluctant to do that. And so and I can't blame them, and I wouldn't blame either of you if you voted against it. So, yeah, I feel like without those numbers, it feels like it's.
I think it's kind of self-defeating, because you're gonna get a lot of people voting against the concept of not having the money down, even though they may want
Yeah.
community center.
Well, the objective was to start TM by September 1st. They said they could achieve it in 6 weeks, which would be the first, second week of October. The objective was to try to then go out with communication with town, you know, the website, town halls, all that stuff. There's a reluctance to assume that they're gonna be able to execute it. You know, I'm confident that they're gonna do it, but, so we'll have a report sometime in October, and we'll just go from there. We'll just keep it outside the ballot process, and we've got time to talk it through.
I think there's an opportunity here to use other people's data to give people an idea. I corresponded with West Long Branch, and I have the cost for their community center, which was bid about a year ago. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bids for the roof, and 5 for the rest of the building. The building is a 100-year-old church, by the way, similar to one we might have. The footprint of their building is 15,400 square feet, and the footprint of ours is 11,189 from outer space, which is fairly close. Close enough for this exercise. So, if we could go out and find the price for those two, even though they're a little bit older, and maybe some similar projects that have been bid in other towns, we could at least get a flavor for the high end, low end, as opposed to what may or may not be an exact cost from an engineer for $100,000. And I'm not saying we're not going to move forward with the exact cost eventually, but in this education of the general public, we can use information like this to give them. Some people are going to say that this is going to cost $20 million, and this will give you an idea that no, it's not. It's not. And if you look at the scope of work at the West Long Branch Community Center, it's very, very, very similar to ours. They had handicap ramps put in. They had abatement going on. They put on a new roof. They put in stairs to the basement. They reworked the kitchen. They reworked the sanctuary into a gathering hall. It's very similar.
How old was it? You said it was 100 years old.
It's roughly the same time. The core of the building It's got a lot more additions put on it than ours. We had the gym put on the back of ours, they had a library put out the side, they had some other stuff in the back.
But was it in use before they converted it? This building's been out of use for, I don't know, 8 years, 9 years?
Well, not that long, it's been out of use since 2015, 2016. Theirs was out of use for probably about the same amount of time. They tried to do this probably 3 years ago, and it was vacant at the time, and they went in there and did some stuff kind of willy-nilly, and then pulled back and put a bigger plan together and put it out to bid. But the point is, without zeroing in on this, I think we could probably find a half a dozen projects like this, low-end, high-end. Just to say, okay,
Usually for a project this magnitude, though, you would depend on your engineer's estimate.
yeah, I agree. I'm just saying, this
Yeah.
adds a little bit of flavor to it, and it doesn't
Oh,
take much.
yeah.
This was one phone call for me, and the next day I got the email, so it doesn't take a lot of effort.
Randy, you're not advocating that we could do are you saying we should do a quick estimate and try to still make the referendum?
No, I'm
You're
saying
just-
we're not doing the referendum, so now we have time to do something like this, which really isn't gonna cost us a thing. I'm sure
But
the
you're not saying not
friends
to-
of the community, friends of the community center could probably come up with a half a dozen of these pretty quickly, with connections that they may or may not have out.
So, you're not saying not to proceed with the engineering study, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying not to
Okay,
proceed
okay,
with the engineering
okay,
stuff.
Okay, okay.
These could be parameters that we could use as reasonableness check on the engineering.
Absolutely. I mean, we did it once last year before some people here were on board, and we had an engineer that the old mayor brought on, and he sat in a meeting here and told me that the roof on our church was gonna be $1.5 million, and I had this. And it's the same shingles, it's flat roof, it's got skylights, it's a different shape, but same scope.
Who was an engineer in SDA?
I don't know.
No, he's not.
Whatever it was, you know, not all engineers are fantastically accurate. Not easy to do nowadays, especially with the fluctuations in market value. But if we can come up with real-time market values, it's very helpful.
I mean, for what it's worth, I think the more information we can pull together, the more we can share with the public.
Right.
The more educated the public is
Exactly.
to decide whether or not there's value in having a community center at a given cost. And as the mayor's prompted us all to think, and what would the alternatives be? But you need to have a fact-based basis for making that decision. So, I mean, Randy, to your point, if other data is available and someone can pull that together, that perspective can't hurt as we evaluate what the engineer would pull together. I think we ultimately need some sort of validation from an independent expert, right? Engineer/engineer architect.
Well, typically what happens is they put together a scope they use, and at the end of assembling the scope, they have the engineer's estimate, which not so much as it used to goes out with, you know, bid advertisements on the various websites that are out there for soliciting work as a general contractor. Those have pretty much disappeared 100% in the last 18 months because they're wildly inaccurate. They're usually half of what the real-time costs are that come in. But now that we've had 18 months of real-time costs, we could get a better idea.
I've seen engineer estimates be low as well, so I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, so I mean, it
That-
it depends on.
I'm not saying it won't be
Right,
low
yeah.
either, I'm saying we have an opportunity
Yeah,
here.
you do have an opportunity.
to back
meet
check.
Right, when TNM was talking just that phase one, they were gonna provide bid packages
Mhm.
and the whole,
And we don't need every bid package right
No.
now, we need a mechanical one, a structural
Yeah.
one, plumbing and electrical.
right, I think the
And
difference.
the stuff that comes after that, there's not a real urgency for that.
Yeah, and I see the difference is if TNM provides that and this architecture firm works with them, it really should tell us, okay, this is a reasonable representation of the cost and time.
I also didn't come here tonight anticipating that there might be a kind of a mid-year option. And granted, it's an expensive option, but I just like the idea of buying some time for our residents, as much as for us as for our residents. I don't think we could do this process justice, trying to get an addendum question structured in a way that'd be meaningful within the next 6 or 8 days, whatever the
I
deadline
think
is.
presenting stuff like this to the general public over the next 4 or 5 months is gonna draw people out. You may not even need a referendum.
And I may be building on what the mayor's idea of having town hall type education meetings. Even that was gonna be a fairly intense process over maybe the second half of October.
Right.
This would give us a much longer time frame, perhaps to have this same form of town hall meetings. So is anyone sitting here thinking we should still push this for the 2021 referendum?
No, I think so.
So then the question would be, do we push it out to a mid date or?
I think we wait to see what we get from the analysis and then decide from there.
We got plenty of time to wait. We do it in February.
Yeah, hopefully in October, we got at least the first pass that this is the way this looks, this is a rendering. this is-
So the question becomes if we're thinking about doing a referendum at some future date, whether it's in March, April, May, June, whatever, we've got to understand what our timing deadlines are on that too.
I think we have much more control over that if we do it ourselves.
Yeah.
This is time bound by the state because it's a state ballot. And they want the board of elections. We have to get those parameters, so you're absolutely right. But we just can't,
We can't say, in February, okay, let's do this in March when we had to have it filed in January.
No. We probably need to get, maybe that's something, Erica, you could follow up on, is for a local autonomous referendum, what's the parameters? What do we need? Timing, costs, who do you have to involve to? I don't know if it has to be validated by some county or state entity or something.
I think this is a good outcome. I think it gives us all more time, so we can do it right. Second, put a workshop, do we have more to cover?
Well, the agenda says we get to hear from the public, which
Yeah.
I'm very happy about, by the way, thank you. So, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we want to just hear from the public on it. Good.
Paul Shamp, 411 Apple Lane. I'm glad to hear that you're not rushing forward without any data. I think if we had a referendum without data, it wouldn't prove anything other than what we've already had, which is a petition a year and a half ago that had over 550 respondents, and our survey, which had 190 respondents representing over 400 residents in town. And we didn't have any data, and if a referendum went ahead without any data, I think it'd be just as meaningless. I have a question. Would this be a binding or non-binding referendum?
I think we have to determine that.
There's a couple different kinds. I did a little homework today.
Yeah, because that's something to really think about the implications. On my part, as the head of this Friends of the Bradley Beach Community Center, we're going to proceed with donations, seeking grants, and I'm happy to report that we already have one trustee who has pledged matching grants of $25,000 a year for the next 10 years. And I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to raise at least $500,000, and I think that's extremely conservative, let alone money towards grants. And also donated labor, which is something that we really have to find out the legal implications on. We've already had a gentleman offer to refloor the entire church and gym all flooring for free, a resident in town. And we have to find out how that can be accomplished. But we do expect that there will be quite a bit of donated labor in this project. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thomas Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. Thanks again for the workshop meeting, Mayor. It makes things more comfortable for the public. About, you know, the process, this Plan B of the church center, I've never heard of that before. So, the diocesan center, I don't know, you know, this Plan B, I don't understand where that came from. You referenced it earlier in your conversation.
Yeah, so when we started looking at options around a community center, we said, okay, the base option is 319 Lorraine. The second option was, given the uses that that facility would have, are there alternatives? So the team that was formed looked at our own facilities. There really wasn't any good opportunity. When you look at the rec center, Biazzi, they just weren't fitting the bill. So there was a discussion with the diocese about the parish center behind the rectory on Ascension. Said, is there an opportunity potentially to buy or lease that as an option? And it's a very preliminary conversation, but what they came back with was, we probably aren't interested in selling it, but we might enter into like a leasehold improvement deal, if you're interested in it. So the question is, it's about 15,000 square feet. Can you accomplish what you want to accomplish with a community center there? The upside of it is, it's very close to the school. There's parking. It's not in a, decimated kind of condition. The downside is if it's a lease, you certainly try to do a contract, a lease to buy. But, it's an option just worth examining. So that's basically it.
But the cost for the adaptation for our utilization would be, under a leasehold, would not be improvements that we would own. So it seems like we'd be improving a lease property.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Well, I just have one concern. T&M said last time they were $80,000 was their report. And I always assumed we had an architect. Now we're going to hire another architect. Do we know how much that fee is going to be?
We don't. We
don't have an architect now, or?
I don't have a borough bid RFP award, no.
Okay, so there's been, in 18 months, there's not an architect who's been looking at this?
We have a resident who volunteered primarily to help us, and in fact has done a good amount of work. Mr. Nishemkin has a sister who's volunteering.
Okay.
But I think some of the guidance we've received from our BA and the mayor is ultimately, for us to move anything forward, we really need an objective third party, not volunteers.
Okay.
Again, we respect their talents. They're extremely talented, honestly world-recognized architects that we've been using, but they are volunteers.
Well, that being said, if you could just plug in that cost number. I mean, I'm concerned because according to this bond ordinance you're going to pass tonight, your appropriations now are going to be $2,250,000.
That includes the original one.
Yes, I understand that. And my point is, as a conforming use, having 4 lots on that property, for the amount of money you're in now, and an additional $250,000 to demolish the building and do a subdivision in order to sell it, you're looking at $800,000 a lot, is $3.2 million. I mean, that's only $700,000. I mean, we gotta pick a spot. Are we gonna go after this building and get it done? Or are we gonna take a paltry $700,000 for all this work we do? So again, I just want us to be, as we go forward, let's make a decision as to how we're gonna handle it, because the farther you get along spending this money, now the professionals know that there's $900,000 additional bonding for me to bid against. Hey, that's pretty sweet, I'm going after that. But now, once that's gone, now we're down to, not a lot of profit. So, I mean, I'm a proponent of this church. I think the less money we spend on fiddling around, and the sooner we get to it, the better off we're gonna be. I mean, this is 18 wasted months. If someone was, you know, paying a mortgage on a house, they wouldn't wait 18 months to start doing the work. So thank you very much, and again, Mayor, I do appreciate these meetings, thank you.
Yes, William Shaw, 110 Fifth Avenue. I have a couple questions. Like it was just said, the over $2 million in bond, and now we just found out that we have to redo the abatement and everything with the lead and everything. Is that included in this bond?
It is. So the abatement, so we took the estimates, as Councilwoman Mennel asked before, that Dave Brown had gotten some abatement costs.
Right.
So they're included in that estimate. The other thing that's included, which is pretty significant, correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, is some roof money. So the cost would be sequenced. So to the earlier point that Mr. Coleman made, we want to spend $700,000. We're allotting for that, and then hopefully we can index through this and figure out where we are. But the other thing we don't want to do is piecemeal it and say, okay, now we got to go back, now we got to go back, now we got to go back. Hopefully we don't have to go back, hopefully we won't spend that much. But the abatement money is in there. It is in there.
Well, okay.
And I think it's to the tune of a couple $100,000, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's a couple $100,000.
But it's not cheap.
No, it's not. It's not gonna be cheap. It's gonna take time. The other thing, the estimates that you wound up receiving, Randy, how old are they? Was the work just recently done, a year ago, 2 years
yeah.
ago?
It's,
What, 2 years ago?
I don't know if they finished it yet, but,
Because
the bid,
the cost of material in the last 6 months have doubled.
this is from
I
September.
mean, a sheet of
This is from
plywood is over
September.
$100.
These ordinances are
That
from
used to be
September.
50.
I know.
And it's not going down, it's going up and up and up.
They were supposed to go down in September. It's already gone down a little bit. Yeah, it has.
It's not good.
Hold on.
It's not gonna do that. Anyway, like it was said, and I've always said in the past, you have 4 rateable lots that you can get out of that. I would say tear down the building, subdivide the property and sell it, and the town will make a couple of $100,000 hopefully out of the deal. And, you know, we walk away without spending another almost what? Maybe $8 million in redoing the building, $5 million, something like that. Because we don't know what structurally, how it stands right now.
Well, that's what we want to find out. That's what we want to
And
find out.
if
as
it's
quickly as we can.
structurally damaged, like I hear from some other people who've been with that church for many, many years, and we're looking at easy 5, maybe 8. In fact, Randy, in the beginning, when we were looking to purchase this building, he came out and said that it's gonna cost the town anywhere between $6 to $8 million, way back in the beginning. You came out and said that.
It's about 5.
You came out, well, okay, 5.
And
So
that-
5 on
that's-
top of 2 yet, you know, and
That's-
who knows where that's gonna lead.
That includes what's in there. That included the purchase.
Now, you weren't saying that in the
Yes,
beginning.
I can
No,
show
You
it.
weren't saying that in the beginning.
I can show it.
I'm not gonna get into a debate here.
No, we're not.
That's not what you said, because I can feel my
Thank you.
face. And I'm not talking to you, sir.
Yeah, I know some people are not wearing masks, so I think I'm gonna pull this mask down a little bit, you hear me a little better. First of all, can't hear you back, I'm only in the second row, so difficult to hear. And, morning, Mrs. Administrator, you talk very softly, no question about it.
That's the first time I've ever been told that.
She hasn't
Believe
gotten-
me.
She hasn't gotten annoyed with you.
Yeah.
Believe me. One thing that this church has that the other possibilities that you were talking about, this church has history, cultural history, art history. This has what Bradley Beach needs, a cultural piece. And it's the oldest church in town. It may be one of the oldest buildings in town for all I know, but certainly the oldest church. And it's got so much going for it with its relationship to Asbury Park, its relationship to Neptune, to Ocean Grove. it's, you know, I just wouldn't want to see this torn up because we have something else which may look good on the surface, but it doesn't have the guts that this one has. The other thing is that Mr. Bedell made a point of corroborating independently, I guess, some of the other projects which are similar. And I think it's a great idea. Let's get some other corroboration on it. And we were in a church very recently, as a matter of fact, about 2 months ago in Piscataway. Tore it down, rebuilt United Methodist Church in Piscataway. Talked a long talk with the pastor there. And I know what they went through to make this community center and this church rebuilt, which is beautiful. So I think definitely what Councilman Benel said has some value. Thank you.
Sir, can you give your name and address? for
Oh,
the
sorry.
record? That's okay.
Jack Chintempo, 103 4th Avenue, Bradley Beach.
Trying to treat us all the same.
Anyone else? Once, twice, okay. Got 15 minutes to spare, so we're gonna reconfigure and start at 7. So thank you everybody for your time and attention.
Do I make a motion to adjourn?
Yes, make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Email.
Perfect. I'll keep it in my own little chair with this.
I was going to a beach shop.
So I sent you all the email, and then,
Not sending it away. You might be able to get it right off of Bradley. Please, for once. It's on a YouTube video. That's right. Thank you. Like I said, go to the website and see what I just.
I got the end slots.
Yeah.
No, I had to take a picture of it. Yeah, you gotta look at your messages. I send it as a Click on your little icon, it's messages. Yeah, well, one of them should say, that's on the line, so you should be able to open that up and see a message from You're breaking up, I don't know where you're
And
going.
unfortunately,
Well,
I'll ask you on that sheet. Millions of dollars. She.
No. Scroll through that, no, it's not that, it's a new one, I just sent it. But it might be linked to that one, it'll just be at the bottom. Scroll through it to the very bottom. I sent you a picture. So you should be able to go into your messages and find the picture.
All right, I'll send it.
Oh, okay, it's actually, it's on
I
my
can do it wrong.
Oh, yeah, we've got to check it all day, you can.
Oh, okay, so
People know about it.
Okay, perfect.
They're getting it. Okay, we have one more of these little guys, so, I don't know where you want to put that.
All right, I send it again. You just got a ding, so you haven't gotten it. Yeah, you're gonna have to turn your phone sideways, it's the only way to get the whole thing in. But like I said, try first just going on Revenue website. If you can't find that link, then you have to type that in exactly like it's a search, and then, you know, hit enter, and it should bring it up. Project page. You should just turn your phone sideways. Well, you can make it bigger too, and then you just gotta do it a little bit at a time. But like I said, either copy that down on a piece of paper and type it in exactly the way it is, or go on the Gravity Beach homepage and see if they have that link, and if they do, just click on that.
She didn't have a copy of it. I'll send the,
Okay, all right, good luck.
And you have everything? Everybody has copies of what you need?
Who knows? We'll find out.
Okay. Randy and John have my full packets because I was updating the.
I have two packets now.
Well, yeah.
We'll go by the revised orders.
Yes, exactly.
She had a question on the ordinance.
And then get back to I think that's what they want. We have the same situation.
Okay, entrance is not, I could change that. So entrance is not, we came out in the middle of Ocean Park. Yeah, no, I understand, now I understand perfectly.
Actually, they make great, we were there,
I was teasing Eric on something. On the other side of that. Meanwhile, when he does that, he's pushing it this way. Oh no, I know where I put it.
I can see by the end of the night, it's gonna be like Lucy and Ellen with the friendship song, you know, we pop it on the head, we pull flowers on
but the homes. It's owned by the so I yell out, they can see that. Yeah. The guy's like, oh yes, it's owned by the I said, I'm not going to so, plus it's, but I mean, the money was, and then they said like,
Yeah,
all this day.
I agree. Last thing you need to
Yeah, no, no.
take down a tree, then you straight down. Yeah.
There's some houses that are around, you know, that are on the historical register, that are not available.
Right.
That are privately.
This is the one I'm talking
It was just a great, we didn't even use the car, we parked the car in the hotel.
We keep this church. Who's gonna pay for the insurance? I just wanted to make sure my thoughts were correct.
Look my wrist and I went to pull a chair out of the table, went back and I went.
That, well, that's all the counts. That's all the counts, right. Yeah, what's the progress between recess?
Are you having a good time?
Yeah, get busy, you know. Busy, but it is a good thing.
Were you in the Shakespeare?
No, not this year, I just didn't have time this year.
We didn't get a chance to go down and see.
I heard it's really good. Yeah, I didn't get a chance either, but I heard it was,
Is there anything else coming up?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. That's very good. That's very good. Those are- they were on the first page. Yeah. No. Kick. Well,
Right, here's an agenda there for you.
I'm going here to put, yeah, I had
whole thing. Okay, everybody, we're going to start the meeting. Start the pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I wish to announce that the 48-hour notice as required under the Open Public Meetings Act was emailed to the Asbury Park Press, the Co-Star, and the New Co-Star on December the 10th of 2020. That a copy has been placed on the bulletin board in the borough office, and that a copy has been filed with the borough clerk. Before I take roll call, I just want to say something. If everybody could take a look at their agenda, we now have an email address. So if you can't make it to the meeting, you can send an email, your question, your comment to that email, and Kim or myself will respond to whatever your question or comment is for whatever's on the agenda or whatever's going on with the meeting. Okay, and
So you can have a question read out during the meeting. We can answer.
you can, oh yes, and during the meeting, if somebody has a question, they're watching YouTube Live, they could just type in their question to us and we'll answer it right then and there. But even if it's before the meeting, if you wanted to send a question during the day, you can do that as well.
Okay, clear. Thank you, Erica. Would you take roll?
Okay, roll call. Mr. Bennell?
Here.
Mr. Gubatese?
Here.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Mayor Fox?
Here.
Was the open public meeting statement that?
Yeah.
You did? Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. I just want to add one other announcement. Our Office of Emergency Management has COVID-19 mask policy effective July 6, 2021. The guidance further recommends that individuals not vaccinated continue to wear a mask and social distance when indoors. We'd ask your conformity to this requirement. This is about protecting our fellow citizens and children from the Delta variant. I'm sure you're all reading about the Delta variant and seeing some things, so we'd ask for your help on that. Okay. Tonight is meeting 16 of 2021. We have 3 ordinances for introduction, all bond ordinances that we'll detail during the discussion. For those who weren't here, we just had a workshop that we talked a little bit about one of the ordinances around the Marine Avenue Church, but we'll go into it more when we get into the meeting. And we have one ordinance for adoption, some refinements to our shade tree ordinance. There is one proclamation tonight recognizing the International Overdose Awareness Day that I will read. The proclamation states, recognizing International Overdose Awareness Day. Whereas each year we lose thousands of people from drug overdose globally. Some survive but suffer permanent injury with devastating impact to their family and friends. And whereas the borough of Bradley Beach is not immune, you may have seen it to happen to people around you. Tomorrow it could happen to a loved one. This is not an invisible issue, and whereas the International Overdose Awareness Day provides an opportunity for us to reflect on practical ways to prevent overdose in our community. Overdoses are preventable. Knowing the real facts about drugs and what to do when seeing someone experiencing an overdose does save lives. International Overdose Awareness Day events that aim to educate our communities about drugs can help. Now therefore be resolved by Larry Fox, Mayor of Bradley Beach, do hereby proclaim August 31st, 2021 as International Overdose Awareness Day in the borough of Bradley Beach to make citizens aware of this devastating situation. Okay, thank you. Next we have approval of minutes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our 27 July workshop meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes. Also would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of 27 July regular council meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sextman?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes. Also, last, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 27 July executive committee meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sextman?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes. Okay, we'll now go to administrative report. Kim, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to just comment on quickly?
Hi, good evening. Just quickly, I just wanted to update everyone. I've tried to address any questions or comments that I've gotten in the past couple of weeks from residents. You can email me, call me, stop in at any time. I've met with the DPW superintendent to go over the different items that were brought up at the last meeting. We believe we have resolved for those items. I meet with the police chief just about every day. We discuss items and issues that are going on, and we've come to a resolve with those issues. I met with the grants writer this past week, and we will be applying for different grants. And I'm hoping that the council feels as though the communication is going well between us with advising them of the different grants that are open and then what we will apply for. I also met with the communications personnel to go over the website. We're going to try to make some changes of who gets what emails on the website. If you see any issues or problems, please email me or call me, and we'll address those issues as they come up. That's really about it right now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Okay, we'll now move to ordinances. Oh, I'm sorry, public comments. I almost skipped public comments. Public comments or questions on the August 10th agenda. 5-minute limit, single instance. So if there's anybody with questions or comments on the agenda at this time.
Thomas Glenn, 612 3rd Avenue. I just had 2 questions about the bills list. I see that Ms. Rice isn't here, but in terms of on page 5, it looks like there's $6,200 in computers that were purchased, and I was wondering, it doesn't really definitively say how many computers and what departments they went to.
Do you want me to get back to you on that?
If you could, that would be great. It just seems like one large expenditure at one time.
I know personally that we needed a computer for the zoning and planning secretary. We had to get a computer for communications and tourism.
Okay.
People really shouldn't be using their own personal devices. So that's more or less what was going on. But I can find out.
Okay, that'd be great. And then on page 8.
Can you email me that way I have your email address?
Sure. I've emailed this.
Oh, then I'll send it to
Yeah.
you? Okay, then I'll get that in.
And then there's a payment here to Northwest Financial regarding the rain. Are they on a contract? I mean, could I get a copy of that contract? And this is a $2,300 payment. And again, we don't, I don't know their scope of service, what they're doing. It would be nice if the public knew that.
I can email you if you have.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Before you show my head with that, I have a couple questions on the bill list, and Ms. Rice is not here.
She's online.
We just got her in. Just go ahead.
Better I can answer as well.
Okay, under the, what you would call it, for the Shakespeare performance, we spent over $5,646. Where did that money come from? Is it from the beach revenue, tourism, or is it from the taxpayers?
I believe that's a budget appropriated item that's approved by the municipality and state each year.
For the arts?
Yeah, the arts budget's, I think, $10,000 a year.
Okay, all right. All right, so that answered that one. The other one is on page 9, line item 53498, and it's marked Rutgers University tax collection, and then it says, that we pay $1,129, and it says dues, mortgage, or whatever that is, meetings, mortgage, and school.
That's the line item in the budget that it was appropriated in and budgeted for.
So is it for dues?
It's school. It's
Excuse me?
schooling, it's classes.
Oh,
It's
it's
classes,
classes.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then, on page 12, I'm not understanding that one, but, line item 53518, I've seen it in the past where it says, Vic's Restaurant, and it says 3 pizzas for summer camp, $105. Did we just buy 3 boxes of pizza for $105?
No, that's the line item on the purchase order. So if you have different lines that you can enter, like your first description would be soda, your second description might be pizza, the third one might be, police department. That's the third line in the purchase item, in the purchase order was paid. And there were multiple lines, meaning it's probably what's called a drawdown purchase order or a blanket purchase order, and you're appropriated a certain amount of money that you can spend there, so that was the drawdown.
All right. Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Sandy, are you yours?
Okay, good. If there's no other questions on the agenda, we'll move to number 9, or no comments, we'll move to number 9. We have 3 ordinance introductions. That's one of the reasons we have our CFO on the line, Sandy Rex. So the first is 2021-23, a bond ordinance amending in part bond ordinance number 2020-02, adopted on February 11, 2020, providing for the acquisition of real property for municipal purposes in order to increase the appropriation thereof by $750 for a total appropriation of $2,250 to increase the authorized bonds and notes to be issued finance a portion of the cost thereof by $712,500 for a total debt authorization of $2,137,500 and an increase in the allocation of the appropriation to cost permitted under NJSA 40A:2-20, authorized in and by the Borough of Levin Beach in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey. I don't know if we want to start, Sandy, just giving the overview before we do council comments. If you want to do a quick overview.
Sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I was asked to contact our bond council to prepare several ordinances for tonight's agenda. The first one on the agenda, as the mayor stated, is having to do with the Lorraine Avenue property. And this bond ordinance would pay for both engineering and some preliminary abatement to the property. In preparation for tonight's introduction of the ordinances, as required by state law, I have to prepare a supplemental debt statement. Supplemental debt statement will be posted to the borough's website so that everybody can see it. I have to file it with the office of the clerk today, and then it is also submitted to the state. What the supplemental debt statement does is to add the appropriations for these 3 ordinances to our current debt. And I can tell you that prior to adding these 3 ordinances, the borough's percentage of net debt for the current fund was around 0.367. After adding these 3 ordinances on tonight's agenda, it brought the total net debt for the borough's current fund to 0.441. A municipality by state law is allowed to incur up to 3.5% of its net valuation taxable in debt. With the 0.441, you can see that we're well below appropriating that money doesn't necessarily mean that we'll spend that money. By adoption of the bond ordinance, it will give me the authority to issue debt against the ordinances, if we need to. So what I mean by that is, we appropriate $750, but we realize that the church is only gonna cost $600,000. Well, we would never issue debt for the whole $750, we would only issue debt up to $600,000. So, upon introduction tonight, the thing that you should take away is just that we have the money appropriated. It gives me the authority to borrow up to those dollar amounts. It doesn't say that we will borrow, and that our total net debt is well within the range that is permitted by the state. That's kind of my overview. Of course, I'll jump in if needed again.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. So, at this point, are there any council comments on bond ordinance 2021-23? Yes.
Yes, Sandy, for my own benefit as well as hopefully for some in the public, there's an awful lot of numbers floating around, especially in this particularly large bond ordinance that's, in aggregate, what, 2.1 million or so, 2.137500. And I know a large portion of this is actually tied to the 2020 ordinance that we passed for 1.5 million. I believe we spent 1.4 million of that. But can you walk us through the mechanics of this, please?
Sure.
Yeah, just so we understand how all these numbers tie together.
So when I contact bond counsel, one of the things that I have to provide to them is what's the purpose of this new bond ordinance? The state wants to know, bond counsel wants to know, why do we want to appropriate this money? So I explained to her that we had a previous ordinance to the purchase of the church, and now we need to do some additional possible remediation to the church. So she said, Alan, I know that I've kind of explained to you over the last year or so, when you do a bond ordinance, they look to see what is the useful life of the equipment or the property or the capital project that you're looking at. What is the useful life? The useful life will determine then how long you start down the debt. So the reason why bond counsel decided to amend the original ordinance, which was passed in 2020, is because then we get the useful life of the church property. Now, useful life on a building is much longer than, say, the useful life on a police car. So by amending the original ordinance, we get use the useful life of the church property in the repayment of the debt issued for the refurbishment. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that useful life is 40 years for the record.
I don't have the ordinance directly in front of me, but generally, you see that, the useful life on a building is something in the range of 30 or 40 years.
Yeah. This ordinance says 40 years.
Yeah.
And then, Sandy, there's machinations here, but the two numbers that jump out at me beyond the original bond ordinance, which we're not issuing this full, we're not bonding this full 2.1 million. We're bonding the incremental 950.
And that's why you'll see on the supplemental debt statement that I prepared, the only additional debt that I put on the debt statement, supplemental debt statement, is the additional $750,000. Because if you remember, we've already issued bonds for the purchase of the church.
I do remember. The section 20 costs, though, say 950,000. Is that, can you explain the difference between that 950 number and the 750 number you just referenced?
Right, so because the 950 number references the total bond ordinance of $2.4 million or $2.3 million, whatever, it adds up to. Soft costs or section 20 costs are usually engineering, the cost of issuing bonds or getting permit fees or anything like that we would incur with this project. Those are called section 20 money, or often referred to as soft costs.
So,
The 950 that you're referring to refers to the total ordinance, which is now amended to be the 2.4 million.
so, like I think it's 2,250,000.
Okay?
And then, and just again, finally, to be clear, not only for myself, but for the public, the 750 is the true kind of, I'll call it incremental amount that we're adding to our existing bonding.
That's correct.
And just at a high level, do you have those numbers in front of you that you can share with the public? The 750, roughly, how does that break down between engineering and other costs?
Unfortunately, I'm not prepared right this second. I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but it should tell us in the ordinance what the breakdown between the true capital costs and the soft costs would be. Usually, I would rule of thumb about 20%. So 20% of 750.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, I meant more, so, for the remediation, that's 200,000, for a roof repair, that's 150,000, you know, what, do you have rough estimates of what we would use this bond amount for, the 750?
I know that we have for the lead and asbestos abatement were around 160,000. The cost of the roof repair was approximately 250,000. The engineering, which would include either phase one engineering, which would be just the initial engineering, or phase two, which would be further engineering to include a study of the cost to take into community center or whatever the desired use is. So that engineering was roughly $180,000.
Okay, that gets us to about 490, call it rounded to say 500,000, but there's another 250.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can pull up the bond ordinance real quick, if somebody has the bond ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry, I think my math was wrong, it's 410, it's 5, I'm sorry, it's about 600,000,
Yeah,
so
over 600,000.
we're missing about 150.
Right.
Could that just be margin for error in case estimates are higher than we anticipate?
I'm sorry, I lost you there for a minute.
Do you want me to read what I have as a rough? I have the rough email.
Please.
Sandy, I have the rough email that we passed around with one another. I can go over it. 250 remediation and not full reconstruction of the roof. 250 remediation of asbestos and lead, possibly mold.
250 for each, Kim?
Total. Yeah, it's between 250 and 260.
For asbestos or for roof?
For all those three items. Asbestos, lead, and then mold.
For all three, 250.
Yeah, approximately 260 though. Then 150 for multiple phases of engineering and architectural work. And I guess there was room for, error, or if with the remediation, you can have a higher cost if the levels come back higher. We're hoping that this covers it.
And I'm sorry, Kim, just because I might not have understood, separately did you say there's 250 for the roof and then 250 for asbestos?
Correct.
It's asbestos, lead, and
Asbestos, lead, mold, but there's two separate 250 numbers.
Correct.
Okay, that gets us to the 750.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Sandy.
No problem.
Okay, make a motion to introduce 2021-23.
Second.
Mr. Vanel?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton? Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Funk?
Yes. Okay, bond ordinance 2021-24, bond ordinance providing for the improvements on York Avenue Phase 2, appropriating $250,000 thereof and authorizing the issuance of $65,000 in bonds and those to finance a portion of the cost thereof, authorized in and by Borough of Valley Beach and County of comments on this?
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor. Sandy, on this bond, I know we're only targeting the net difference between the total appropriated sum of $250 for the work to do on, this is.
Newark Ave.
Yeah, Newark Ave, thanks. But we anticipate or already have received grant funds for $185,000.
That's correct.
So we only need the $65,000. We don't need to incur the full cost and then get reimbursed.
Correct.
Thank you. Oh, and this is likely to be banned as opposed to bond?
I would think so, you know, now we may start out with everything in there. You know, that's traditionally the way that we respond to these types of ordinances. You know, we'll have to see what the market's like when we actually go into the debt, because as we know, bond rates are still very low.
It says the name.
Okay. No other council comments? Okay, I'll make a motion to introduce 2021-20.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yeah.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Bond ordinance 2021-25, this bond ordinance provides for various capital improvements and acquisitions appropriating $225, thereof and authorizing the issuance of $213,750 and notes to the financing portion of the cost thereof authorized in and Borough of Bradley Beach County, New Jersey. This really ties into a number of issues we've had in our buildings for probably a number of years. We've got some real roof problems in this building, in the Ozzie Center. We've got to do some real work on this. So a pretty significant amount of this bond is for some roof and architectural work to fix these issues. And then there's a couple other capital items in here. But that's the primary deal, is to try to really shore up some of our facilities. So with that, I'll see if there's any council comments or questions. Okay, then I'll move to introduce 2021-25.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, moving into adoption, we have ordinance number 2021-21, an ordinance amending chapter 425 trees of the borough's revised general ordinances to clarify and enhance certain shade tree regulations. Let's again start with any council comments.
Well, Mr. Weber was offering.
No.
All right, then what I'll do is close council comments. I'll now make a motion to open public comments on ordinance 2021 and ask limit comments to 3 minutes if anybody has any comments.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Any comments? Okay. Make a motion to close 2021-21
Second.
and to adopt, yes.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes.
That was 2021-22, correct?
That's 22, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Communications. We have a number of communications. We have a resignation letter from Anthony DeMaio from the Library Board of Trustees, unfortunately, but we had some conflicts and some other things going on, so we appreciate Anthony's service to the community. He's still involved in some other activities in town. We have a seasonal employee memo, a few increases for people. C, we have a request for Sophia Heller to conduct beach yoga on Wednesdays in August and September from 5:30 to 6:30 on the 4th Avenue Beach. Request for Ocean Grove Historical Preservation Society to conduct a 5K race on Saturday, September 18th from 8 to 9:15. A request from Bradley Beach Recreation Committee to conduct a kite building event on Saturday, September 11th, 2021 from 10 a.m. to 3 at the 5th Avenue Gazebo. Request to approve an application for a block party on Evergreen Avenue on Saturday, October 2nd from 3 to 7 PM. Also a request for Michael Healy to be appointed to the library board as a trustee, replacing him. I'd like to make a motion to move items 10C, D, E, F, and G to the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Mr. Vanel?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Yes. Oh, I don't think so. So Sandy, if you want to sign off, you can sign off.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, we'll call you if we need you.
Thanks.
Okay. Consent agenda. There are 7 items on the consent agenda, including the ones that we just moved there. We have 2021-196, the bill list. For August 10th, we have 2021-197, authorizing Sophia Heller to conduct beach yoga on Wednesdays in August, September from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. at 4th Avenue Beach. 2021-198, authorizing Ocean Grove Historic Preservation Society to conduct their 5K run on September 18th from 8 to 9:15 a.m. 2021-199, authorizing Bradley Beach Recreation to conduct kite building event on September 11th, 10 a.m. to 3. 2021-200, building a block party on Evergreen Ave for Saturday, October 2nd, from 3 to 7 p.m. 2021-201, authorizing extended grace period. Yes, with grace period for 2021 third quarter property taxes, and then 2021-202, appointment of the order to library board trustees. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, can we get a resolution 202 voted on separately?
For,
Can we get that item voted on separately?
2021-202?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you want to just move it to the resolution?
I had some questions about that, so we can move to the resolution, but I have another question about, with block party, if I can ask a couple questions on this consent agenda. So, and this is a question for the chief, as far as the block party on Evergreen. Were we not allowing block parties for a time because of the pandemic?
I don't believe so.
We weren't, okay, so there's no,
Maybe at the height of the pandemic, but at that point, it was probably not block party weather.
okay, so this is not, doesn't look like any kind of change for block parties, okay. And then just with 202, if I can ask the question now, Mr. Mayor, it says there's communication from Michael Healy. I don't actually have that communication, so all I have is that it says communication and then.
I didn't give you the email, John?
And the bigger question is, aren't these your appointments, Mr. Mayor? I'm just curious why we're voting on that. I thought these were just appointments that you can make. Oh, so then, well, that's. Yeah, vote on it, we don't.
Yeah, okay, well, you took it off, so.
Right, so we can vote on separately or, yeah, on however you want to do that. So.
We just took it off.
Leave it on consent?
No, we can take it off for a second.
Okay. We're moving it to what, resolutions?
Why don't we just move it to communications?
Okay, so no resolution.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So make a motion to approve the consent agenda, do I have a second?
Sorry?
Mr. Vanel?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, resolutions, 2021-203, authorizing revision to the council meeting schedule for November. Primary reason for that is we have election day and there's a lot going on for the administration, kind of orchestrating election day. So make a motion to pass 2021-203.
Second.
Mr. Vanel?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2021-204, authorizing the Borough of Bradley Beach to participate in the Local Efficiency Achievement Program, otherwise known as LEAP. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Vanel?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2021-203, approval of waive 200 application fee required by Borough Code Section 398.9 under 398 sidewalks, curbs, gutters, driveways until December 31st during the borough's new sidewalk compliance program. This is really because of the backup in some of the masonry contractors that have been working on this for us in town. So make a motion to approve.
Sorry.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2021-206, authorizing appointment of Kimberly Humphrey as a qualified purchasing agent through December 31st, 2021. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2021-208, appointing Michelle Weil as Public Agency Compliance Officer for the remainder of calendar year 2021. Make a motion.
Mayor?
Seven.
There's two in the row, Ken.
The 207.
Oh, it's 207, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh.
It's,
No, no,
it's
206, 206.
for the, fund commissioner?
QK was 206 and joint
I'm
insurance
sorry.
was 207.
Okay. So 207 is appointing Commissioner for the Municipal Joint Insurance Fund, I'm sorry, and that is Kimberly. 207, sorry.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2021-208, appointing Michelle Weil as Public Agency Compliance Officer for the remainder of calendar year 2021.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Oh, second.
John, that was you?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2021-209, we want to table that resolution at this time. Make a motion to table.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, there are no announcements, so I'll go to mayor and council reports. Start with myself. Hopefully you received your tax bill this week in the mail, and you'll have a grace period, as we mentioned before. The first payment to September 10th. We worked very hard in 2021 in order to lower the municipal tax levy. We did it. Happy to report we have about a 4% reduction in our rate, and total tax levy increased by less than 1%. So this should translate to marginal increases for most households, and hopefully most people will enjoy that. Our summer season is a bit past halfway point, and continuing the trend with better weather, except last Sunday wasn't too great. We should be on target to hit our goals for the beach this year. Hopefully we finish in the last 4.5 weeks pretty strong. A question came up, I think in the last meeting, about where was our revenue at this point. On beach pad revenue, we're at about 1.675 million. We budgeted $1.9 million, so looking at kind of our daily beach sales, we're well within hitting that target. So we should be pretty close to that target. Maybe a little bit over. I'm kind of betting, but certainly the weather is going to be a key component of that. The police department resumed the National Night Out on Tuesday, August 3rd. It was a rousing success. Over 500 residents participated in this important community event. Thanks to the police, fire, EMS, and public works and other volunteers for putting on a great event. Sergeant Josephine Solerano was appointed by Chief Whitty to lead the effort. She did a great job. Shakespeare Festival was another rousing success. A few weeks ago, 2 performances on the promenade went very well. Our Arts Council, headed by Julia Rand, again delivered great service to the community. Last week, B.A. Humphrey and I took a tour and met with the school superintendent and business administrator of the school. We identified a couple of significant opportunities that we'll discuss further in coming weeks. Also, Councilman Sexsmith had suggested we might have a workshop with the Board of Ed school sometime in the future, which I think would make a lot of sense. On the library, summer reading ends on 8/24, so people that are involved in that are tracking their points for prizes. 8:13, Family Olympics, participate in relay races, summer games, that's on 8:13 this Friday. Tuesday, 8:17, Zoom with scientists, chat with the Cornell grad about how animals grow up. Friday, August 27th, Little Red Hen Puppet Show. See what happens when a Little Red Hen goes to a sidewalk chalk program. And then curbside crafts for adults will continue through Wednesdays and Thursdays through the month. I have one other thing to just kind of talk about and put out there. We had a workshop, I want to say it was July 13th, on merging the Board of Adjustment and Planning Board. I just want to, again, ask that we postpone this discussion until early 22. Tonight I'm not going to argue any of the pros and cons of it. I just want to look at some of the other major work that needs to be done in the next 4 months. I'm also heeding the advice and expertise of our new BA, who has gone through affordable housing code requirement into compliance. There's other significant things we're working on. We just had a workshop on the Lorraine Avenue Church. That's going to take some work. We've got a lot of personnel-related corrective actions that are in place or moving in place right now. Getting our infrastructure projects on track, I think, is very important. The sewer project phase 2, from my view, is overdue. I'd also like to begin to assess a bulkhead extension past 3rd Avenue towards Avon. And then our council improvement process is one that I think we can put some work into. Truly assessing a significant change like this is no small task, and I don't want to take it lightly. I'd like to ask our clerk to really do an assessment of some independent data from other towns and look at the effectiveness of that change. So that is my report. Councilman Bedell.
I think Larry covered a lot of stuff that I was going to talk about. It's been fairly quiet around town, and I have been extremely busy at work, so I'll just say that I did get a chance to get out to the National Night Out, and the police department did a great job, and thanks.
Councilman
Al?
I'll pick up where Councilman Vanel left off, say National Night Out seemed to be a great success. It was wonderful just having the community gather as they did and have the mayor flipping hamburgers.
Not in the dump tank.
Not in the dump tank. Someone tried to get me in the dump tank. I need a lot more water. But no, I thought it was a great evening, and it really is just a wonderful experience. Every time we go down to the beach and there or to Riley Park and there's some form of community gathering, it just reminds you of how much I think we all really enjoy being residents of Bradley Beach. Also wanted to thank the mayor, our BA, Erica, and perhaps others who have at least created what might be a permanent solution, and in my mind at least an interim solution, to enable folks viewing us on YouTube to be able to participate by emailing comments, emailing questions. Our very last council meeting, I very specifically said I'm a very large proponent of incorporating Zoom into our live meetings, so we could have residents in the audience as well as residents participating, remotely. Our remote option currently, or up until tonight, had been YouTube. But YouTube, you can watch the video, but you could not interact. And while I don't believe we've had any actual interaction tonight, and I'm hoping we'll test later and find out that yes, email was available, just folks chose not to use it. I think it's a really important next step to be a little more virtual and accessible with our meetings. And with Sandy as well. I did want to thank our new BA. I've had the pleasure of meeting with him a couple of times now. Really seems to be a go-getter on top of everything. And one of the more impressive things was the early work she's doing with Liz Hernandez, our new grant coordinator, to really start to rev up our activity around evaluating, identifying new grant opportunities. Anyone who goes through the borough's financial statements over the past few years will see that we've been relatively light on securing grant funding. We've had a few DOT grants, no question. We had one we just talked about this evening for Newark Avenue. But by and large, I think there are many more opportunities out there, and and Kim's personal experience working with grant applications, combined with Liz Hernandez, a really great talent that we have in that role, I think is going to create a lot of value for the borough going forward. Finally, on July 28th, the Sylvan Lake Commission had a meeting. They are in the process of, for everyone's knowledge, they do have a new charter, which I've announced in prior meetings. And under that new charter, they have a new design for naming members to certain rotating terms. They are delaying that process to the end of this year so that new members who they're identifying primarily from Avon, it's a split commission, if you will, between Avon and Bradley Beach residents. They're going to delay the actual elections of their new officers till the end of this year. But again, if anyone else is interested in Sylvan Lakes Commission, please feel free to reach out to Ann Paulity. Contact me if you need her contact information. But they would both, Avon and Bradley, would welcome any interest in that commission.
I would just like to let you know there are 11 emails.
Nice. Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Excellent. People on YouTube, keep sending in emails. And that concludes my comments.
Okay, Councilman Sexton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start off with the police activity report. Since the last council meeting, the police arrested a local subject for shoplifting and investigated 7 motor vehicle accidents. And the Detective Bureau is currently investigating a series of thefts both within and outside of the borough. They are coordinating with other agencies on this investigation. Moving on to the first aid squad. For the period ending August 10th, the squad responded to 11 day calls, 4 night calls, for a total of 15. There were 14 for medical, 1 for fire. The squad responded to 1 mutual aid request from Neptune City, and there was 1 answers water rescue to Neptune. There were no COVID-19 cases. The squad fulfilled 100% of their assignments. Last night, on August 9th, the squad was confronted with one of the most difficult calls for a squad to handle, approximately 2000. They were dispatched along with the police and the paramedics who reported a burn victim at one of our local restaurants. As captain of the squad, I wish to thank all the people who participated in getting this patient to proper facilities to be treated. First, thanks to the 2 Bradley Beach police officers on the scene who assessed the situation, and the dispatching staff for the coordination of all the entities requested by the Meridian paramedics for a medical helicopter to be dispatched. Next, I'd like to thank the Avon Police Department, First Aid Squad, and Fire Department for preparing and securing a landing zone at their ball field. The coordination, teamwork, and professionalism on the part of all units made this a very successful operation. Thank you all for a job well done. Moving on to the Fire Department, for the period ending August 10th, the department responded to 1 request from the department. They conducted 1 in-house training session for the safety and education of firefighters using master stream devices. The department attended 3 special events, the Business Community Alliance for the where the department received recognition for their hard work and dedication during the pandemic. National Night Out, where they provided fire safety information to citizens and visitors of Bradley Beach. And lastly, they attended Water Day at the Rec Center for the closing of summer camp, where they put on a demonstration of their fire equipment and gave the children a shower using the pumper. The department fulfilled 100% of their assignments for that period. As always, fire and first aid are always looking for volunteers. They both offer free training for qualified individuals. Anyone wishing to volunteer for either the fire department or first aid squad, applications can be found on the borough's website. That's the end of my report.
Great. Thank you, Councilman Sexton. Councilman Ward.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I attended the National Night Out, which was great, so thanks to the fire, the first aid, and the police that made it happen, and many people in this room that helped make it happen. So it was a great event. You know, a very long time ago, I used to, for the code and community development, I used to read through a list of just, you know, how many this happened, how many that happened, how many inspections, how many permits were issued, and I didn't find it extremely useful. So I'm gonna try to do a new thing, which I'm gonna call your moment of code, and I'm just gonna pick a couple things that basically everybody should know about as far as, you know, keeping your property in order or whatever your responsibilities are. So these are some really old ones we talked about a lot in this council, but everybody should know that you're not supposed to put loose bags of trash at the curb. It's gotta be in a can. It's kind of simple. We don't want animals and seagulls and stuff getting in it, and those trash cans must have lids, same thing. And then if you own property, that area between the planting strip, which is between the sidewalk and the curb, that is maintained by you. It seems everybody knows this. Yeah, you cut the grass. It's the borough has a right of way over that property, but you get to maintain it. You get to cut the grass, maintain the trees and things like that. So I hope to just bring a momentous code for my reports from here on in. Just little things like that, good reminders for people. For the recreation board, summer camp is ending this week. There's a big party on Thursday if you want to go over there, sometime between like 9:30 and 2 o'clock. Friday would be the last day for recreation summer camp. As mentioned previously, the recreation board, they're looking to have a kite event on September 11th. That's going to be free to kids. You get to build a kite and then fly a kite up at the beachfront. And the rec board is very grateful for the fact that the stove and freezer were fixed at the rec center, so they are very appreciative of that. You know who I'm talking to out there. Moving on to the shade tree, they're plugging away. You know, again, they have a program for the memory tree. If you want a tree planted in memory of somebody, it's $350. And then if you wish to have a tree planted in the planting strip in front of your house, you can let them know. That's called the Wishing Tree Program. And they have probably half a dozen of those requests already, so we're going to match them up. And then I put out a call for just people that want to help plant trees in the fall when it gets to tree planting time. And I literally got dozens of people from like an old environmental commission list say they're interested in helping plant trees. So I think we're going to be in good shape in the fall when we actually get around to planting trees. And then on the environmental commission, they've just discussed possibly going for sustainable Jersey certification this year. It's a 3-year thing. They can do it any and every year. They did it in 2016 and 2019, but they're looking to maybe go a year ahead, but they're still evaluating that. So that is the end of my report, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you, Councilman Weber. Okay, do we want to take, we can do the live first and then email second. Is that okay?
Yeah.
This is new territory. So, agenda item 15, public comments, 5-minute limit, and single instance to speak per resident. So, is there anyone that would like to speak?
Rich Stessman, 600 3rd Avenue. I want to thank the mayor for reporting on the beach revenue. Appreciate that. Also, Mr. Mayor, you said at the beginning of the meeting, reminded people of the policy with regards to wearing face masks. I just don't want anyone to misinterpret people having a face mask on. I'm wearing one tonight. It's not because I haven't had vaccine. It's because I have concerned 2 grandchildren that are with us, and they can't be vaccinated yet, unfortunately. I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thomas Cohen, 612 3rd Avenue. I had a comment on the ordinance for 2021-25. In terms of, you know, the specifics of what this is, it would have been nice to hear about these improvements that are going to be done to maybe the Biasi Center, maybe this building, and a little more detail in this ordinance. This might have been a good workshop item to have the Public Works Director come in and let the public know, hey, here are the issues we have. Here's what we're doing. Here's the money we need. I mean, then just to get this on you, to have this ordinance come out for $225,000 appropriations with very non-specific items on here. I mean, I'm a little puzzled about the electric Kubota because we already bought 2 Kubotas. So, is this a sustainability issue or?
John, would you like to talk about an electric Kubota? What you're gonna do with it?
I had a question about the electric Kubota myself, because it was just presented as Kubota, but the answer I got was that up at the beachfront, and Biagio helped me out with this, is a non-noisy Kubota at the beachfront that makes less noise, disturbs fewer people. I don't know if it's, we have perfectly good ones now and we're just buying a new one, I don't think that's the case, but am I kind of on track with that, Judy?
Emissions too, right?
Emissions.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'd like to see this stuff workshopped ahead of time, and then the ordinance comes out, and we all know, hey, that's what that was. Also, on the Newark Avenue ordinance, are we replacing the sewer there?
That's phase 4 or 5.
So we're paving the street.
It's years out,
We're gonna rip it up again to do the sewer.
probably in 4 or 5 years, yeah.
Wow,
It's 4 or 5 years.
okay.
Yeah.
But the useful life should be 20 of the new street. That's my concern there. And in terms of your comment, Mayor, about we did not lower the tax levy. I just want to be very clear about that. Okay, 200,000 was taken from the sewer surplus and used in the budget. So that doesn't mean you pat yourself on the back and say, hey, we lowered the levy.
That's not factual, what you just said.
What's not factual?
First, it was 100,000, not 200,000.
No, it was 200.
It was 100.
No, it was 200,000.
I thought it was 100.
100,000.
100?
It started out at 200 and we went down to 100.
Oh, okay, and then
2 years in a row, so that's what you're confused.
Oh, yeah, so we did it, yeah, we keep doing it and say, yeah, we really lowered the tax rate, that's great. And in terms of merging the boards, the affordable housing plan should have been done 3 years ago when Mr. Engelstad was here, and it wasn't, and it was forgotten, and we lost the opportunity to get affordable housing units because of that. But merging the boards is a very important thing that probably should have been done about 20 years ago when other towns like Manasquan and Spring Lake did it. It makes sense. And for our ordinance changes and things that we have going forward, 2 meetings a month gives the planning board more access to do the reviews and take care of any backlogs that the zoning board has. It makes total sense, and these things are not anywhere near in conflict at all. So they're two separate things, and I look forward to us merging the boards. I hope we can do what other small towns do and actually save money and give our residents more service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrence Wright, 406 Madison Avenue. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but after TJ's comments about merging the boards, I felt I should get up and say something. My understanding is the two main reasons you might want to merge the boards is, one, if you're in a town where there's not too much action as far as construction and improving the properties, there's not really a case to do it in that space. And if you look around town, the construction and improvements that are going on is on every street, and anywhere you walk, they're knocking down houses, building new ones. So there's a lot of action with the code department, and we have two boards. Now, the other reason would be is if there was a shortage of volunteers to take part in both committees, which is 9 on each board, which is 18 people, that would be another consideration. As you know, we have 2 fully seated boards, plus we have people in the shadows waiting, if someone drops out to come in. So, in both cases that I'm aware of where you would want to merge, certainly doesn't apply in Bradley Beach. And I guess if you've got 18 people looking at changes as far as construction and how you're planning the town in the future, 18 opinions is better than none. And I fear that if you get one board and you get some people put in there who have ulterior motives, then it's going to be like a dictatorship on which direction the town goes in. I think the more people you've got making the decisions gives you a much broader scope of which way you're going to go, and hopefully the right decisions. And the one thing that gets me is I haven't heard one reason as an advantage of merging. I know a lot of cons. I haven't heard one pro by merging the boards, what you get out of it. And the other part is if you go down to 9 people as opposed to 18 on the 2 boards, you're going to have twice as much work, and you're going to burn them out, and you're going to get turnover. And you really want, you don't want repetition. You want people to get seniority on there and get knowledgeable about what they're doing. So I don't see any reason to even be debating this. It's been 2 boards in the 22 years I'm here, and I haven't seen a problem. I don't know why this has suddenly come out to the public as being a problem. And again, can anybody tell me what the advantage is of having 1 board versus 2? Because there's an old adage I think we should go by. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you.
Hi, it's Kelly Riley, 304 Second Avenue. So I also want to talk about the planning board merging. So I am, full disclosure, on the planning board as an alternative, so first year on it, and I was just curious, again, to echo what you were saying, what were the reasons? So there has to be reasons. Was there miscommunication? Was there any particular reason why we felt that those 2 separate entities were not working? I truly feel that having 2 different departments makes sense. You have those checks and balances. The other thing I want to talk to you about that point was that this first came to light, I think in early July. We had a planning board meeting a week later that 2 people who were in that conversation never brought to the planning board to discuss with us and say, hey, this is up for discussion, we should have further contact. So I just want to point out that we all talk about transparency, and not a lot of you are very vocal about being transparent in the business or in this company, was doing work emails in this community, and you're not. So I want to make sure that you guys are really clear and really talking to each of us who are impacted by this, as well as the residents. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Norman Goldfarb. I live at 406 4th Avenue. Excuse me. I want to speak tonight about the discussion of merging both planning board and zoning board together. I'll tell you, it's my personal opinion that we should continue with the 2 boards, but I am certainly open to what the mayor said, that he would like Ms. Costick to do some fact finding. Of course, we haven't done that in 4 years, am I correct? The last time this issue came up, perhaps we come up with new figures and new ideas as to what's going on. Personally, I don't think there will be much of a monetary savings, and I agree with some of the other people that merging the boards is not exactly the best thing to do, because it kind of consolidates power and.
All right, then you're not done. Sorry. I forgot to restart. Please continue.
Okay. So the bottom line is that I don't think it should be done. And as far as volunteers go, I think it's very important that the citizens of this town have the opportunity to volunteer on the different boards, to have a say in the town, and that's very, very important. Not only to have a say, they have an actual vote, which is very important. This is what this country is based on. And I, for one, having served many years on the zoning board and as a member of the planning board, I will volunteer for any board you want me to, if you're looking for volunteers. Thank you very much for your time. Good night. Thank you.
David Fratelli, 212 Evergreen Avenue. For the record, I am a member of the Board of Adjustment. I was appointed by the previous administration. I was brought on because of my background. I've been in the real estate development business for over 4 decades. I don't fully understand the rationale behind consolidating boards and removing a check and balance system in the town. As some of the other people had mentioned, this has worked in this town for as long as I've been here. I work throughout the state as well as across the country. This is standard operating procedure for the majority of municipalities, both in this state and the country. I believe consolidating power in one place tends to lead to problems. I forget what the old adage is, but ultimate power is ultimately a problem. So I don't understand understand the rationale of why we're going to change the checks and balances that are in place. Again, it's been stated that there's more than enough volunteers in this town that are willing to help this town. As I refer to this town, this is Mayberry RFD at the beach. It's been that way since I've been here from the 80s. I first purchased the property. I was here prior to the 80s, not owning property in this town. And it would be a shame that we change this town and the character of this town to create something that replicates suburbia or just a one-party control. I just feel that having a check and balance system is a good thing throughout all areas of government, not just a volunteer planning board or a board of adjustment. Thank you.
Can I speak? Deborah Brunel, 401 Fifth Avenue, Bradley Beach. I wasn't aware, first of all, I am on the zoning board, so make sure I say that. I sent an email in earlier. I wasn't aware that my email wouldn't be part of tonight's proceedings. So I mean, it may be published somewhere or printed somewhere, but it didn't come out in these.
I think we're gonna do that right after people talk. We are gonna go through.
Yeah, we're gonna read through them after.
So, okay, then I will bother to read it, because I was.
Okay, you can read it and I will read it.
Yeah. Okay. So, these are my opinions for keeping the two boards distinctly separate. The zoning board and the planning board have distinctly different purposes, number one. Number two, there's no shortage of volunteers for both boards, and the cost for operation for both to the town is negligible. The town benefits from the input of a diverse number of individuals and would conversely incur a negative effect with fewer people serving. Number four, participating as a member of either board requires a level of expertise. One must know the town's mission when considering for approval, new construction, or renovations. 5, members should know local and state ordinances and codes, legislation distinctly different for each board. Volunteers put in many extra hours in addition to actual meetings. Plans need to be reviewed in advance. The state of New Jersey requires courses be taken to certify members' qualifications and ability to serve. Doubling the workload on members would increase volunteer burnout exponentially. A constant turnover of volunteer members serves no one's best interest. It seems to me that a political agenda is what really is motivating the combining of both boards. A few friends are easy to appoint and control, thus manipulating the decisions regarding the direction of the town. Two distinct boards with different responsibilities and interpretations will better serve the community of Bradley Beach. Thank you.
Want to do the emails?
Over the emails. There are 10 emails that were received today. This is from, unfortunately, I don't have addresses, I just have email addresses. This is from patty50@AOL.com. I believe that this is not a good idea of merging the zoning and planning boards. Too much power will be granted to one board. Let us not rush into discussions about careful scrutiny. Without careful scrutiny. I believe that this topic should be set aside until we look at the work that the Council on Affordable Housing has come up with. Thank you. I have actually Patrick Freeman, 26 Atlantic Avenue, Bradley Beach. That's one. The next one. This is from Ines Altamuz, 400 2nd Avenue, Bradley Beach, to whom it may concern. I am concerned about a push-through of this ordinance. This is about merging and planning and zoning board. Recently, my observation is that despite the fact that I voted for a more transparent and responsive council, this has not always been the case. There needs to be much more communication with this community and opportunity for us to understand the issues and respond appropriately. I am disappointed, to say the least. This is from Dwight Gertis, 414 Lorraine Avenue. Question for council meeting. My apologies for not being able to make this meeting in person. My question has to do with the possible merger of planning and zoning boards. Is a lack of board members the impetus of merging boards? Then maybe a call from board members is in order to consider a small stipend for service on the boards as they serve important to municipal functions. If council members are looking to merge on a basis for saving money, that seems short-sighted and more like a consolidation of power. I reject that argument. Second question. Same subject, why the rush? Please detail all surrounding municipalities that have merged planning and zoning boards. If this is a trend, it should be studied to see if there is merit. If other towns and boroughs are not doing this, again, why the rush? I'm very skeptical of the fast push to merge these two important boards with different functions. I would appreciate it if the mayor and council chair would explain and post rationale for and against such a merger. In the interim, I would ask to table this matter so it can be studied. Thank you. Did anybody want to comment, or do I just keep reading?
Let's keep reading.
Thanks. Okay. Robert and Barbara Johnston, 505 Evergreen Avenue, Bradley Beach. Dear council members and Mayor Fox, we both vote in Bradley Beach. We are opposed to the rushed decision to combine the planning and zoning boards of our town. We request that the council examine this issue and make public their findings with a clear and objective assessment of the pros and cons of such a plan. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Rona Parker, 27 Atlantic Avenue. To the mayor and council, in reference to planning and zoning boards. I am concerned that a rush judgment to merge the planning and zoning boards is counterproductive to the goal of an open and deliberative government, which we in Bradley Beach seek to achieve. If our government aspires to provide transparency to our residents, this proposal should be carefully weighed and debated before adoption. Rushing this through, especially at a time when important decisions are being made about housing policy, will rob us of the two-layered development process currently provided by the planning and zoning boards, which has served us well in the past. Any change should be publicly analyzed and debated. Sincerely, Rona Parker. No, I have 5 more. Robin Flips, 408 Lake Terrace, Bradley Beach. It is my understanding that the work underway for the borough by the council on affordable housing will not be completed until sometime in 2022. Without knowing that the results of the co-work, I do not believe the council can properly assess the impact of a proposed merger of our zoning board of adjustments and the planning board as recommended by some council members. There is no urgent need to change the board structure at this time, and no new data to support that effort. So waiting until we have more recent and relevant information just makes more sense. Therefore, I strongly support the mayor's position to wait until the work of the code is completed before any action is taken with our current board structure. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I understand, Bob Menhart, 1111 Ocean Avenue. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I understand there is a proposal in the works to merge the planning and zoning board of adjustment. I want to go on the record that I am against the proposed merger. The boards have 2 distinct functions and are fully staffed by concerned volunteers from the borough. It has been shown that there is no significant financial gain in the merger of the 2 boards, and there is no lack of volunteers to staff them. I see no advantage to the merger. What are the concerns driving this proposal? As governing officials of our borough, it is your responsibility to work together to make decisions that are best for Bradley Beach and not be concerned about the personal and special interests of yourselves or others. Reducing our volunteer base by 50% on these boards will reduce the knowledge and input from the concerned citizens that staff them. In addition, it will double the workload for the remaining members that staff the combined boards, as they will be responsible for preparation and attendance of 2 monthly meetings. I have enjoyed Bradley Beach since 1970 and have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, not necessarily in that order. over those 50 plus years. I love Bradley Beach. For me, it is living the dream. Please consider what is best for the future of Bradley Beach at all times. Thank you, best regards. This is from Fran Maynard, 1111 Ocean Ave. Dear Mayor Fox and council members, first let me start off by saying I appreciate all that you do to continually work to keep Bradley Beach the best it can be. I also appreciate the chance to ask questions and voice my concerns to this council. At recent meetings, the idea of merging the Board of Adjustment and Planning Board have been discussed. These two boards have had separate functions and responsibilities. I am concerned that by combining the boards, you will be putting an undue burden on their members by requiring them to take on double duty. These people are volunteers, and I believe that they work diligently on resolving the issues before them and take their work very seriously. For years, the township of Bradley Beach has functioned with these two separate boards, each serving the community. I believe we should continue in this manner. Exactly what is the problem? I have attended many council meetings over the past 6 years. I became a full resident. It has been my recent observation, I hope I am wrong, that there is conflict between the members of this council. While different viewpoints are necessary and have always been welcomed, discussion and collaboration among the governing members is key. If there are problems, it is your responsibility to work together to resolve the issues. The mayor and council, the board of adjustment, the planning board should all be working for the residents of Bradley Beach and keeping their best interests as a priority. Discussion, collaboration, and transparency are necessary to resolve issues. I'm gonna need a drink of water or something. No. Ariana Bacco, 200 Green Avenue. To the mayor and councilman, I unfortunately am unable to attend tonight's meeting in person, but would like to comment on the workshop discussed at the last meeting and the proposal of merging the planning and zoning board. As a newly appointed alternate member of the planning board, I am concerned by the lack of research and public discussion entertained by the council with respect to the possible ramifications of merging these two boards. This merger is not currently a priority for the town, and seeking to push through an ordinance at this time with the lack of transparency and adequate consideration is highly concerning. The discussion of this matter presented at the 7/13 council meeting seemingly rested upon outdated research. Additionally, there was a planning board meeting the following week on 7/22, at which both Mr. Kupatosi and the mayor were in attendance. Why wasn't this matter discussed at the planning board meeting? Again, the lack of transparency is highly concerning, as this action would consolidate the decision-making into one board and remove the significant workload distribution as well as the current checks and balances. The priority for the mayor and the board is to do the work mandated by COA, which will take until Q1 2022 at the earliest. This is a large undertaking that will, among other things, need to have a housing element and fair share plan, which is part of the borough's master plan, which will need to be adopted by the planning board and endorsed by the governing body. It is unrealistic and unnecessary to create more work at this time. There is no reason that this merger decision cannot be tabled until COA work is completed and the ensuing time is used for further research. Respectfully, Ariana. No, I only have one more now. If anybody else can know, you're on. Okay. This is from David Altimos. I don't have an address. I am opposed to the combining of the planning board and zoning board of adjustments. This makes no sense to me. A combined entity would have no checks and balances in decision making. The decision should be tabled, not pushed through in a crowded agenda. I looked at the sites of the other municipalities surrounding us. It appears they all have separate boards. Planning types have little interest in seeing their vision challenged and may not or want not to see other aspects and consequences. To allow the same people to grant variances to allow their plans to be realized without a separate group to review, criticize, or challenge the assumptions facilitates the creation of an in-group that would be a unilateral power to shape our town. Their vision, or lack of it, could mirror aspects of our history of thoughtless, unaware decision-making. We would have little or no discussion about plans or zoning. Table this now, do COA, then table it for, like, that's all I have.
Very nicely done.
Thank you. I wish I wore my glasses, but yeah.
If there's no more public comments, make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I thought for sure.
If you just, anytime something like that happens, just email me directly, just let me know. No, because I put that in the paper, I'm reading the money yet. Thank And it was funny because I did it, and then.
No, that's not a criticism of you.
No, I did, but like, they told me one thing at one time, and then I feel like peanut butter and trouble, Reese's Pieces, you know. No, I appreciate it,
It's easy, you can fix it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the document where it was.